I married the same man 7 times. He had divorced me 7 times for his first love, just so he could spend vacations with her freely, and so she wouldn't have to deal with rumors or gossip. The first time we divorced, I tried to stop him by hurting myself. I ended up in the hospital, but he didn't even come to see me. The second time, I lowered myself to apply as his assistant at his company, just so I could see him more. By the 6th divorce, I had already learned to pack my things quietly and leave our apartment without a fuss. My meltdowns, my constant giving in, and my numb compromises only led to one thing: him coming back to marry me on schedule and repeating the same old games. Until now, when I heard that his first love was returning to the country, I handed him the divorce papers first. As usual, he made a plan to remarry me later, but this time, he had no idea that I was leaving for good. Larissa's back. Let's get a divorce. I handed Jeff West the divorce papers I had already signed, my face calm and unreadable. For a second, his expression froze, but he quickly recovered. He then signed his name on the papers with practiced ease. It was the first time I had offered him the papers instead of the other way around. Still, just like the last 6 times, he said casually, "Once she leaves in a month, I'll remarry you." In the past, that line would never have been enough to curb my insecurity. I would make him swear an oath or sign a contract, anything to feel safe. This time, I felt nothing. I had no desire to respond at all. "Helen, are you even listening to me?" Jeff frowned, clearly annoyed by my silence. I just nodded. "Yeah." But my hands kept moving, folding clothes and packing them neatly into boxes. When Jeff said he would remarry me, he always meant it. Everyone in the business knew him as a man who kept his word. We didn't seem like a real couple anyway. We were like 2 business partners with a contract that needed renewal, signing 2 papers every once in a while, one for marriage and the other for divorce. By now, I had signed 13 papers. I remembered him saying at our wedding that he would never betray me during our marriage. And he hadn't. After the divorce, he was free to be with anyone he wanted. The only cost was that I became the kind of person everyone in the social circle knew could be summoned or dismissed at his whim. But today my calmness seemed to throw him off. He could vividly remember how I had behaved during our divorce in the past. I had been hysterical, even self-destructive. Now he watched me pack efficiently, faster than ever, and he looked a little unsettled. Maybe this time, I should move out instead. I slammed the large suitcase shut with a thunk, cutting him off. I already told my friend I'd stay at her place for a few days. Jeff seemed to have thought of something, and his face darkened even further. "You're not planning to sneak into my office again, are you? Pretending to be an assistant just to spy on me? Can't you do anything for yourself? Are you so lost without a man?" I understood what he was doing immediately. He just didn't want me showing up at his office, disturbing him and Larissa Osborne. After all, she was only back for a short visit. Jeff would always hire her to be his chief assistant, staying close to him at all times. After our second divorce, I had applied and got hired as Jeff's assistant. I carried his favorite caramel latte, heart racing with hope, as I pushed open the door to his office. Instead, I found him leaning back in his chair while kissing Larissa, who was sitting on his lap. I lost it. I lunged at Larissa, fists swinging, and Jeff slapped me to the floor. People had gathered outside the office, peeking in. Everyone assumed I was still the CEO's wife, so their eyes were full of judgment as they looked at Larissa. To spare her from gossip, Jeff ignored my tears, snatched my bag, and dumped everything on the floor. The divorce papers lay there like a warning sign, announcing to the world exactly what our relationship was. From then on, every time Jeff and I divorced, he made it public on social media. Everyone knew Jeff loved Larissa. I was just the shameless woman who refused to leave his side. But this time, Jeff's worry was unnecessary. I grabbed my suitcase without hesitation. "Don't worry. I won't bother you two again." Jeff looked at me suspiciously for a moment, until I pulled the suitcase handle and stepped toward the door. Then he reminded me a little anxiously, "We'll get remarried on the 13th next month. Don't forget." I paused for a second. What a coincidence. My flight out of the country was booked for the 13th. After Larissa returned, Jeff didn't think about me once. This time, I stopped obsessively tracking his every move, which I'd do after every one of our divorces, waiting at every place he might appear. Instead, I spent my days enjoying myself with my best friend, Scarlett Hargraves. We were living our best life. Before I knew it, only 20 days were left until I'd leave the country. One evening, Scarlett and I were waiting for our food at a restaurant when we ran into Jeff and Larissa. Jeff had his arm around Larissa's waist. They laughed and talked as they walked in together, looking like the perfect match. "Helen." Jeff's eyes immediately locked on me. Larissa leaned close to him, draping an arm around his shoulders while smiling sweetly. "Helen." What a surprise. Seeing my gaze linger on Larissa, Jeff instinctively stepped forward, putting her slightly behind him. I knew he feared I might act like I used to and lunge at Larissa without a second thought. But I didn't. I even held back Scarlett, who was itching to defend me. I smiled casually. Yeah, what a surprise. Sensing my restraint, Larissa smiled even more confidently. Sorry, Helen, she said, swinging Jeff's arm and pouting. Jeff promised to reserve this place just for me. Looks like you'll have to eat somewhere else. Right, Jeff? Say something, or Helen will think I'm picking on her. Jeff's eyes flickered toward me for a second, a mix of hesitation and calculation. Finally, he just nodded. He didn't say a word, but the message was clear, louder than any speech. Scarlett rolled up her sleeves, ready to confront them, but I gently pressed her arm down. It's okay. We can go somewhere else. Yeah, we'd go somewhere else, anywhere without Jeff. With my departure abroad looming, I wasn't going to waste time on pointless arguments with my ex. After all, as a competent ex, I was supposed to treat Jeff as if he didn't exist. The restaurant manager, sensing the tension, stepped in with a smile. You two look so happy together. What a beautiful couple. Jeff's eyes flicked to me with a mix of caution and curiosity, as if wondering what I might say or do. But I ignored it completely, took Scarlett's hand and walked away. Jeff stared after us, stunned that I hadn't reacted at all. Larissa called Jeff's name several times. By the end, her voice was tinged with impatience before he finally dragged his gaze back to her. I had thought our restaurant encounter would be the last time I'd see Jeff before leaving the country. But on the very night I officially quit as his assistant, I got a video call from him. It was such a rare surprise that I had to fight the urge to hang up immediately. Instead, I switched to a voice call. Jeff's voice carried a hint of annoyance. Why switch to voice? I shrugged it off casually. I don't have makeup on. I'm not ready for video. I immediately regretted saying it. It sounded as if I wanted to impress him. As expected, Jeff laughed, suddenly in a better mood. We've been together forever. I've seen you without makeup plenty of times. His flirty tone made me uncomfortable. I kept my voice cool. Do you need something? He noticed the distance in my tone and sat up straighter, leaving behind his usual lazy posture. I heard you quit from HR. I gave a short, yeah, and didn't explain. Neither of us spoke for a while. Jeff tried to fill the silence, but it felt like small talk without real meaning. I'm glad you quit. I never understood why you chose to be an assistant when you're already the CEO's wife. That's kinda lowering your status. He continued. And honestly, your schedule was all over the place. I barely saw you at the office, but I still had to send your paycheck every month. Everyone knew you were my +1, saying I'm playing favorites. Annoyed, I cut him off before he could say more. Don't you have to go see Larissa? Jeff muttered under his breath. We're not together. Why would I? Then he went quiet, remembering I was just his ex. A flicker of guilt crossed his face. I'm sorry about the divorce. I owe you for that. I was just worried people would gossip about Larissa if we were still married. I nodded to myself. Sure, Larissa didn't deserve the whispers and judgment. So I got to be the joke, the topic of conversation for everyone else. My voice grew colder. If there's nothing else, I'm hanging up. Wait, Jeff's voice turned urgent. December 12th is our anniversary. Your favorite singer's concert is that night. I know you've always wanted to go. I'll buy the tickets and we'll go together, okay? For a brief second, I almost thought about telling him the truth. But before I could speak, Larissa's voice rang from the other side of the call. Jeff, I forgot my towel. Can you grab it for me? Jeff froze and stared at my name on the screen, clearly caught between choices. I kept my expression neutral. Go ahead. Finally, he slowly got up, phone still in hand. Don't hang up yet. I'll be right back. Then he walked toward the bathroom. As expected, I heard the unmistakable sounds of Jeff kissing Larissa, a muffled moan from him, and then the bathroom door slammed. I hung up, smirking. Right at that moment, Scarlett came over, all excited as she invited me to a club. I didn't hesitate. I set my phone down and linked arms with her. There were still so many things in the world that could make me happy. I used to be a lovesick fool, but now, why should I waste energy on a man who was completely in the past? Days without Jeff flew by. Before I realized it, my departure was only a few days away. Even though I had no contact, I still heard about him and Larissa from Scarlett. Apparently, he had a huge argument with Larissa and, ignoring her embarrassment, stormed out of a dinner party. Rumor had it that Jeff and Larissa's fight was about me. I just smiled, indifferent. I wasn't that hopeless romantic anymore, the one who used to refresh social media dozens of times a day, stalking them and everyone who knew them, hoping to catch the tiniest crack in their relationship. If I succeeded, I would then rush to Jeff the second I thought he might need me, ready to remind him that I was the one who truly loved him. Couples who are really in love argue in bed and make up before breakfast. So what if the fight was about me? I had always just been another player in their little game anyway. Still, after that, Jeff started calling me more and more. But I either hung up immediately or found some excuse not to see him. Then the day before I was leaving the country, he asked me to go to the concert with him. I already got the tickets. I'll see you tonight. It's our anniversary today. You're not gonna stand me up, are you? He had never sounded so pleading before. Before, he would casually bring up something or take one step toward me, and I would run toward him the rest of the way, trying to please him. But in the end, I realized he had even stopped getting close, all because of Larissa. I didn't even know what to say because today wasn't really our anniversary. It was the day of our 4th remarriage. After so many cycles of breaking up and getting back together, only I would be stupid enough to keep track of every single detail about him. Still, I said yes. I really did want to see the concert. That night, I waited at the venue, but Jeff never showed up. I opened the voice message he had just sent me. His apologetic voice was layered over the noise of the concert, faintly mixed with Larissa's light laughter. Sorry. Larissa suddenly felt a little sick. I had to take her to the hospital. We'll have plenty of anniversaries in the future anyway. After Larissa leaves tomorrow, I'll do anything you want, okay? The concert finally started. The music drifted through the stadium, soft and melodic. I closed the messaging app and for the first time in a month, opened social media. A photo Larissa had just posted popped right up. It was her selfie with Jeff at the concert. The music continued, as if mocking me for still holding out hope for him when I agreed to the concert, and during the journey here. And now, that tiny hope was completely gone. After divorcing him 7 times, I should have known by now. At least this time, it was the last. With nothing left holding me back, I went to the airport and sat there all night. By 7 a.m., I had checked in. Jeff messaged me, asking when we'd remarry. I didn't reply and deleted him from my contacts. By 8 a.m., I was in line for boarding. He called, but I didn't answer. I blocked his number. By 9 a.m., I was on the plane. The flight attendant instructed everyone to switch to airplane mode. Right then, Scarlett called. Jeff's anxious voice came through the phone. Helen, where are you? Helen, where are you? Jeff's voice crackled through Scarlett's phone, tight with a panic I hadn't heard in years. It was the sound of a child realizing their mother has let go of their hand in a crowd. I looked at Scarlett. She held the phone out to me, her eyebrows raised in a silent question. Do you want this? I took the phone. The cabin crew was already doing their final checks. The hum of the engines was picking up, a vibration I could feel in the soles of my feet. Jeff, I said. My voice didn't shake. It didn't waver. It sounded like I was ordering coffee. Helen, why aren't you answering my calls? I'm at the apartment. The closet is empty. The bathroom is empty. Where are you? I'm leaving, Jeff. Leaving? Leaving where? Stop playing games. Look, about the concert. Larissa really was sick. I couldn't just. I saw the photo. I cut him off. She looked very healthy. The lighting was great. Silence on the other end. Then a scramble for control. Okay, you're mad. I get it. You have the right to be mad. But don't make a scene. Just come home. We'll talk about the remarriage schedule. I can move it up to next week if that makes you feel better. He still didn't get it. He thought this was negotiation. He thought I was holding out for a better deal on the same rotten contract. There is no next week, Jeff. I signed the papers. You signed the papers. That's it. Helen, stop it. You're scaring me. Just tell me where you are. I looked out the window. The tarmac was gray and wet with morning rain, but the sky above the clouds was waiting to be blue. I'm on a plane, Jeff. Plane? To where? When do you land? I'll come get you. You can't? I said softly. I'm not coming back. Helen. Goodbye, Jeff. Take care of yourself. I handed the phone back to Scarlett. She didn't say a word to him. She just pressed the red button, then held down the power button until the screen went black. Airplane mode, she whispered, grinning. Airplane mode, I agreed. As the plane accelerated, pushing me back into my seat, I waited for the tears. I waited for the crushing weight of 7 marriages and 7 divorces to collapse my lungs. But as the wheels left the ground, the only thing I felt was the popping of my ears. I was lighter. Jeff West stood in the center of the living room, his phone still pressed to his ear, listening to the dial tone. He lowered the device slowly. The apartment was quiet. Not the peaceful quiet of a lazy Sunday, but the sterile, echoing silence of a showroom. He walked to the bedroom. Her vanity was cleared. The little bottles of serum, the hair clips, the specific perfume that smelled like rain and freesia, gone. He opened the closet. His suits were there, pressed and organized by color, exactly how she always kept them. But the other half of the closet was a gaping void. Panic, cold and sharp, pricked at his chest. She's bluffing, he muttered to the empty room. She's doing a reset. She's visiting her parents. She's on a trip. But Helen had no living parents. And she hated traveling alone. The doorbell rang. Jeff exhaled, a rush of relief flooding him. See, she didn't go. It was a dramatic exit. She's probably outside right now with her suitcase, waiting for me to apologize. He threw the door open, a charming, apologetic smile already plastered on his face. Helen, I knew you wouldn't. It wasn't Helen. Larissa stood there, wearing oversized sunglasses and holding a Starbucks cup. She pushed past him, looking around. Jeff, why didn't you answer my texts? I told you I wanted to go to that brunch place, but the line is insane. I need you to call the owner. Jeff stared at her. For the first time in 10 years, her voice didn't sound like a melody. It sounded like a drill. Not now, Larissa. She paused, lowering her sunglasses. Excuse me? What's wrong with you? And where is her? She waved a hand vaguely, refusing to say Helen's name. I need someone to steam my silk dress. The hotel service ruins everything. She's gone, Jeff said, his voice hollow. Gone shopping. Gone. She left the country. Larissa's eyes widened, and a slow, triumphant smile spread across her lips. She walked over and wrapped her arms around his neck. Well, finally. I told you she was suffocating you. Now we don't have to sneak around. We can be real. She leaned in to kiss him. It was the kiss he had blown up his marriage for 7 times. It was the victory he had chased for a decade. He felt nothing. He gently pushed her away. I need to make some calls. Larissa's face soured. Jeff, are you serious? She just dumped you. Are you going to chase her? That's pathetic. She didn't dump me, Jeff snapped, his temper flaring. It's complicated. Just go, Larissa. I have work to do. As Larissa huffed and slammed the door on her way out, Jeff walked to the kitchen island. There, sitting next to the fruit bowl, was a small velvet box. He opened it. Inside were 7 wedding rings. Different cuts, different styles, accumulated over the years. Some were from his poverty days, some from his peak success. She had left them all. She hadn't taken a single thing he had given her. 3 months later, the air in Geneva was crisp, smelling of pine and cold water. I adjusted my scarf, balancing 2 coffees as I walked into the glass-walled office of Montrose and Associates. Helen, you're late, a voice called out cheerfully. I am precisely on time, Julian, I replied, setting a latte down on the desk of the man sitting by the window. You're just early. Julian Montrose looked up. He was 40, with salt and pepper hair and eyes that crinkled at the corners when he smiled. He was the complete opposite of Jeff. Jeff was fire and impulse. Julian was earth and steady foundations. He was the head of the consultancy firm I had joined as an HR strategist. The merger files are ready, Julian said, taking the coffee. But more importantly, how are you settling in? Found an apartment yet? I signed the lease yesterday, I said, unable to suppress a smile. It has a view of the lake. It's mine. All mine. No romance? No drama. No drama, I confirmed. It had been 90 days of detox. The first month was hard. I would wake up in the middle of the night, reaching for a phone to check if Jeff needed a ride, or if he had texted me to bring him medicine. I had phantom vibrations in my pocket. But by the second month, the fog lifted. I realized I had skills. Real marketable skills. I wasn't just Jeff's wife, or Jeff's assistant. I was a logistical genius who had managed a chaotic CEO for a decade. Handling a consultancy firm was a walk in the park compared to managing Jeff West's ego. There's a letter for you, Julian said, nodding toward a pile of mail. Forwarded from the States. Looks legal. My stomach tightened. I picked up the envelope. I recognized the logo of Jeff's legal team. I opened it. It wasn't a lawsuit. It was a settlement offer. A massive one. Stocks, property, cash. Enough to never work again. Attached was a handwritten note. Come back. I'll change. G. I stared at the note. The handwriting was jagged, rushed. Bad news? Julian asked, his voice low. I walked over to the shredder in the corner of the room. I fed the papers in, watching them turn into confetti. No news, I said. Just spam. Back in New York, Jeff was drowning. Where is the Anderson file? He roared, throwing a stack of papers onto his secretary's desk. The young woman trembled. I don't know, sir. The system says. I don't care what the system says. Helen always had a backup physical copy in that. He stopped. The office went silent. It had been 3 months, and the name still hung in the air like a curse. Jeff retreated into his office, slamming the door. He slumped into his chair. The company was bleeding. Not because of the market, but because of the chaos. Helen had been the invisible glue holding his operation together. She remembered birthdays of key clients. She smoothed over his temper tantrums with board members. She organized his life so seamlessly he thought he was doing it himself. Now he was missing meetings. He was offending partners. And Larissa was making it worse. His phone buzzed. Larissa. Babe, are we going to the gala tonight? I bought a dress that cost $5,000, you have to see it. Jeff rubbed his temples. He hadn't seen Larissa in a week. When she wasn't visiting, she was an exciting fantasy. But as a full-time partner, she was exhausting. She didn't want to hear about his work stress. She wanted to be entertained. She didn't want to cook dinner. She wanted reservations at Dorsha. He missed the quiet. He missed the way Helen would just hand him a tea without asking, knowing exactly when his head hurt. He unlocked his phone and opened the Private Investigators app. For weeks it had been blank. But today a notification popped up. Subject located, Geneva, Switzerland. Employment confirmed. Jeff stared at the screen. A photo loaded. It was grainy, taken from across a street. Helen was wearing a thick wool coat, her hair cut into a chic bob. She was laughing. Her head was thrown back, her eyes crinkled. Standing next to her was a man, tall, older, distinguished, holding an umbrella over her head. Jeff felt a physical blow to his gut. He zoomed in on her face. She looked younger. She looked free. He stood up, grabbing his coat. "Cancel my meetings for the week," he shouted to his assistant as he stormed out. "Sir, where are you going?" "Switzerland." I was leaving the bakery with a baguette tucked under my arm. Yes, a cliché, but a delicious one, when a black sedan screeched to a halt beside me. I didn't flinch. I just kept walking. "Helen." The voice was ragged. I stopped and turned. Jeff looked terrible. He had lost weight. His stubble was unkempt, his eyes rimmed with red. He was wearing a suit that wasn't quite pressed enough. "Jeff," I said. "You're a long way from home." He rushed toward me, stopping just short of grabbing my arm. He seemed to remember the last time he touched me, signing the divorce papers. "I found you," he breathed. "God, Helen, why Geneva? Do you know how hard it is to get a direct flight here on short notice?" "That was the point," I said calmly. "Look, I'm done playing," he said, his hands shaking. "The joke is over. You proved your point. The company is a mess. I'm a mess. Larissa is gone." I broke it off. He said it like he was handing me a prize. "I don't care about Larissa, Jeff." "Yes, you do. You hated her. You fought for me for 10 years. You can't just turn that off." "I didn't turn it off," I said, shifting the baguette to my other arm. "It ran out. Like a battery." "I brought the ring," he fumbled in his pocket, pulling out a massive diamond. "Much bigger than the previous 7. I want to marry you. For real this time. No prenup. No games. Just us." I looked at the diamond. It was cold and sharp. "Jeff, do you know what my favorite color is?" He blinked. "What?" "My favorite color. Do you know what it is?" "It's pink. You always wore that pink dress." "I wore that dress because you bought it for me and said you liked it. My favorite color is green. Like the trees." "What does that matter?" he snapped, frustration leaking through his desperation. "Do you know how I take my coffee? Cream and sugar." "Black. I drank it with cream because you said black coffee was unladylike." I took a step closer to him. "You don't know me, Jeff. You know the mirror I built to reflect you, and I shattered that mirror 3 months ago." "I can learn," he pleaded. "I can learn your favorite color. I can learn the coffee. Just give me a chance." "Why?" "Because I love you." "No," I said sadly. "You love that I made your life easy. You love that I was a safety net. You don't love me. You don't even like me. You just miss the convenience." "That's not true." "Excuse me." A deep voice came from behind me. Julian stepped up, placing a hand gently on the small of my back. He didn't shove Jeff, he didn't puff his chest out. He just stood there, solid and calm. "Is this man bothering you, Helen?" Julian asked, his eyes locked on Jeff. Jeff bristled, his alpha instincts kicking in. "Who are you? The umbrella holder?" Julian smiled, a polite, razor-sharp smile. "I'm her partner. And her friend. And currently, the man asking you to lower your voice." Jeff looked between us. He looked at Julian's hand on my back, and the lack of tension in my shoulders. "You slept with him?" Jeff accused, his face turning an ugly shade of red. "That's why you left. You had a backup." "Go home, Jeff," I said, turning away. "Before you embarrass yourself further." "I'm not leaving without you," he shouted. I stopped and looked back over my shoulder. "Then you're going to be waiting a very long time. Because the Helen you're looking for? She died in that hospital the first time you divorced her. You just didn't notice the corpse until it stopped cooking for you." Jeff didn't leave. He checked into the most expensive hotel in Geneva and spent the next week sending flowers to my office. Huge, gaudy arrangements of red roses. I gave them to the receptionist. She was thrilled. He showed up at my apartment building, but the Swiss do not play around with security. The concierge threatened to call the police, and Jeff, mindful of his public image, retreated. But he wasn't the only one who had traveled. On Friday night, I was having dinner with Julian at a bistro. We were discussing a client in Zurich, laughing about a translation error, when a glass shattered near the entrance. "You liar." The screech was unmistakable. Larissa marched into the restaurant. She looked like a wreck. Her makeup was smeared, her hair frizzy. She had tracked Jeff, just as Jeff had tracked me. She spotted Jeff sitting alone at a table in the corner. He had been following me, obviously, and then she saw me. "You." She pointed a manicured finger at me. "You ruined everything. You left, and he became impossible. He talks about you in his sleep. It's pathetic." The restaurant went silent. The polite Swiss diners were horrified. Jeff stood up, grabbing Larissa's arm. Larissa, stop. Get out. No. She shoved him away. You promised me a vacation. You promised me we'd get married once the maid was gone. But all you do is mope. She turned to me, marching over. Julian began to stand up, but I put a hand on his arm. I got this. I remained seated, sipping my wine. Are you happy? Larissa screamed. You think you won? I set my glass down. Larissa, look at him. I pointed at Jeff. He was burying his face in his hands, humiliated. He divorced me 7 times for you, I said calmly. He humiliated me for a decade for you. And now you have him. He's all yours. No competition. No wife in the way. And look at you. You're miserable. Larissa froze. The prize wasn't worth the game, was it? I asked. She looked at Jeff, then back at me. Her lip quivered. She realized in that moment that the thrill of the affair was entirely dependent on me being the obstacle. Without the victim, there was no victory. He's broke, Larissa spat out, her voice dropping to a venomous whisper. Or he will be soon. The board is voting him out next week. Did you know that? I shrugged. Not my business. He came here to get you back because he needs your shares, she laughed, a cruel, jagged sound. He doesn't love you. He needs your proxy vote. I looked at Jeff. He went pale. Ah, there it was. I had 15% of the company shares. A gift from his father, years ago, which Jeff had always forgotten about because I always voted how he told me to. Is that true, Jeff? I called out across the silent room. Jeff looked up. Helen, it's not just that. I do miss you. But, yes, the vote is Tuesday. If I don't have you, they oust me. I stood up. I walked over to him. He looked up, hope igniting in his eyes. Helen. You have my proxy, I said. He slumped in relief. Oh, thank God. Thank you. I knew you still. I'm giving my proxy to Julian, I said, gesturing to the man behind me. He will vote in my best interest. And my best interest is a stable company, which means competent leadership. Jeff's eyes widened. You can't. I can. And I will. I turned to Larissa. You can keep him. Or not. I really don't care. I walked back to my table, took Julian's hand and said, let's go. I've lost my appetite. The following Tuesday, the board meeting of West Enterprises took place in New York. I wasn't there. I was in a yoga class in Geneva, but Julian dialed in. As my proxy, Julian voted alongside the board to remove Jeff West as CEO due to negligence and personal instability affecting share prices. Jeff was stripped of his title. He retained his shares so he would remain rich, but he lost his power. He lost his kingdom. Scarlett called me the minute it was over. You should have heard him, Helen. He was crying. Actually crying. He blamed everyone but himself. He said you betrayed him. I saved the company, I said, stretching into a downward dog. The employees deserve a CEO who actually shows up to work instead of chasing his ex-wife across Europe. And Larissa? Left him at the airport. Apparently, an ex-CEO isn't as attractive as a current one. Serves him right. So? Are you coming back? I looked out the window at the lake, glittering under the Swiss sun. No, Scarlett. I'm home. Epilogue, the 8th paper. 2 years later. I received an invitation in the mail. It was a wedding invitation. Jeff West and Sophia Miller. Sophia was a 22-year-old model. Jeff was now 45, living off his dividends, trying to launch a tech startup that no one believed in. I looked at the invitation. The paper was expensive, the font gold-leafed. It looked exactly like the 7 invitations I had sent out over the years. What's that? Julian asked, walking into the kitchen. We weren't married. We didn't need to be. We lived together, we worked together, and we chose each other every day without a contract. Just junk mail, I said. I dropped the invitation into the recycling bin. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel sadness. I didn't even feel the urge to warn Sophia. She would have to learn her own lessons, just as I had. Ready to go? Julian asked. The flight to Tokyo leaves in 3 hours. Ready, I said. I grabbed my bag. I didn't check my phone. I didn't look back. I had married the same man 7 times. But I had only divorced him once. And that one time was the only one that counted. The end.